So immediately after EVO 2024 concluded, Arc System Works released a new patch for Guilty Gear Strive Season 3. The final patch, in fact, until Season 4 with new characters such as Dizzy and Venom. So in today's video, I do want to talk about the biggest winners and losers of the new Guilty Gear Strive patch. And to start, we have to talk about their goal with their patch. And this is a small balanced patch where specifically no character actually received direct nerfs. What you will see is characters that are affected by system changes, and then characters that the developers perceived to be underperforming. But to start, we have to talk about characters that won in this patch. And for starters, we have Elphelt Valentine. So the first important change she got was that her crouching punch went from 5 frames to 4 frames. This is pretty good because one, she actually has a relatively huge 4-frame jab. This is hers. The biggest advantage of it is that it is just straight up crouching, so you don't have to go from crouching to standing. It might be a very small thing, but you'll notice that if a Viking player is trying to master their 4-frame, which is standing, they're usually doing it really early. And usually what I would do personally to compensate is I actually do her 2K instead of the 5P because I don't have to switch to standing. So having a fast 4-frame that's crouching is very important. Characters like Abba and Milia have this at the moment, so now Elphelt joins them. And with that, Elphelt can now punish things such as this. Then we have to talk about how the gun changed. So Elphelt is a character that's able to attack relatively safely from all ranges because she has this move, which is her gunshot. So this has both improved both from a pressure perspective and a neutral perspective, in my opinion. So now the big thing is that if you do buttons into the gun, reading them, maybe doing something like a 6P, she moves far back enough that the gunshot will go back and you could follow up with offense. This makes it easier to discourage people from using reversal 6P or meterless reversals against her pressure. As far as neutral, she just moves back further than she used to, which is generally good, considering you're doing this from a far range, usually to slower opponents or people who don't have resource, and she is faster than many characters, so being able to go from here or here on command is quite good. Also, the grenade pops up now, so the way it used to work was that she used to have a lot of frame advantage, but you were forced to use JD to pop them up and continue for combo. Now you'll have more combo options in addition to the same JD. Then there is her far slash. So apparently this was mistranslated in the patch notes as it has less running momentum, but now it actually has quite a bit more. And this move was already pretty good. It's a very, very large normal being able to strike from here. This is Bika's far slash in comparison. So a lot of players actually complained that a lot of Elphelt's standing normals were not good because they lose 6P, but now you can do them from even more ambiguous ranges, so you can combine her speed of just stopping and waiting or backing off with a sliding normal. So next I want to talk about Johnny as a big winner. So for Johnny, it's really 2 things. I know I've already seen like a bunch of like new setups and stuff with him, but I think there's 2 really important things that he got. One is the change to his dash speed. It is now 15 frames rather than 18. This is pretty significant. This basically means that in all contexts, his dash is unseeable. Now, he still does not have the ability to dash block, but having a faster dash will make it harder for people to respond to him coming at them out of defense. His dash is the main reason people at high level thought he was weak, because a lot of characters that were good were strike throw characters like Leo and Soul, and not being able to threaten with dash to escape against them made it very, very difficult to reverse defensive situations. The other major change is to Mistfinder now being a medium counter hit. So this is a pretty big deal for a lot of reasons, I want to say. For starters, the move has comparable range to things like H Kabari, which does not have medium counter hit state, nor does the follow-up have a medium counter hit on it as well, like characters like Sin. So being able to do it from so far is a really big advantage, especially too since he can do it from even further with the missed cancel dash. So he's actually able to hit with Mistfinders from almost mid-screen. The slowdown enables both combos and more frame advantage. But the other big thing about it too is that it travels so quickly, right? So other moves, like again, if you use H Kabari to compare, these moves are similar in range, but the difference is that Johnny's hits pretty much instantly the whole time. I believe some people call it like a hit scan. So if we do this at the same time, I am never, ever, ever going to beat him, ever. And this type of thing is really good against projectiles specifically, and this is one of the things that was really good about him in Exert, actually. So here, I'm going to be Kai. Everyone loves Kyle. My Fireball stands absolutely no chance against this unless I hyper preempt it. So I think this is pretty huge for him because now it's harder to see him approach, and he has unseeable stuff that bites certain projectiles and zoning really well. I expect to see a lot more out of this character already. So then we have Bedman. So Bedman has a bunch of interesting changes, but I'm pretty much going to touch on the most important, obvious ones. So first comes from his JS. And his JS Vacuum. So this is really big because this move is, one, really good, and two, it helps with converting. I think this is pretty obvious, but most characters that move backwards don't convert off that hit. So one of the things that are really good about characters like Happy Chaos, for example, is how they're able to convert despite moving backwards, which is pretty uncommon in basically any game. And Bedman is kind of a defensive character, so I think that benefits him a lot. Then we have this JD popping up. Air attacks popping up on ground hit is extremely uncommon as well. The main example we have is Abba with her JH. So Bedman joins this group. This again is pretty good too because this move is just kind of ambiguous. You can use it a bunch of ways. Maybe I'm going to cross up, maybe I'm not, and you get a combo off it no matter what, in addition to air stalling with it. And finally, the other thing that I think is really good for Bedman is general easier conversions mid-screen. Bedman and Baiken actually shared this in common for a while, but Baiken still has this, so I'm going to use her as an example. But in general, when you hit a opponent standing with Baiken slash buttons from a distance, she's not really able to combo. So far slash 2H does not work, far slash 5H whiffs, 2S 2H does not combo, 2S 5H whiffs. And of course, far slash and 2S do not lead into 6H, and even if they did as a Gatling option, it would also not combo. And in Baiken's case, you either need the character to be crouching, a counter hit, or you need to be extremely woke and RC on reaction, which is not an easy skill. Most people preempt this Roman cancel. So Bedman actually had similar problems, so being able to hit far slash 2H from more ranges is very nice for them. But honestly, the biggest buff overall to this character is no one really knows how to fight this character really well, so them becoming more consistent in conversions and accessing their game plan more often is a big buff to Bedman in my opinion. And then the last big winner is any character that just kind of dodged astray from the system mechanics. So we're talking about characters like Mei or Ramathal, where these characters didn't get nerfed and the system mechanic changes, so to Wild Assault and to DPRC and to Wild Assault Wall Break don't really affect them that much. You're still kind of going to be playing the game the same. So then we have to talk about the biggest losers of the patch, but I don't really want to talk about it from a character's perspective, really, like the winners. I more want to talk about it from changes I think that matter. So first is about White Wild Assault, and I wanted to use Gold Lewis as an example because I think it affects him. So formerly this would be plus, now it's -3. A big thing about Gold Lewis is that the majority of his buttons are kind of stubby and most of his buttons are not slow. This got buffed to 7 frames in a previous patch, but he isn't really able to maintain offense very well on minus frames. That's why you'll see them do this and do kind of a simple RPS of like following up with a jump or something like that. So from White Wall Assault here, he is able to do that, but I think he has to kind of commit, where in a previous patch it was kind of just all guaranteed, and some characters are really good at fighting back against -3 situations in general, especially because he does not have like a fast button that he could try to use a hitbox hurtbox interaction to win with here. For example, with the aforementioned 2K, while it's huge and all, it's relatively easy to beat. Dash block all of a sudden becomes a lot stronger, and it's kind of difficult for him to discourage jumping. The next thing to talk about would be about the wall break situation after Wild Assault this patch. So any character that has some type of offensive structure involving fast overheads after wall break is really hurting from this. In my opinion, you're talking about characters like Baiken, Milia, and Johnny. In Johnny's case, he has other things he could do even after neutral wall breaks, so I don't think it's that bad. And to be fair, Milia is pretty fast, but compared to resource characters like Zato and Happy Chaos, who they break the wall with a resource super and they get the resource back so they could just keep going. These characters don't have that, so a lot of their best things comes from using meter in positive. So now because of this change, they have to spend meter like this and then get additional meter back before they do that sequence. Now, to be fair, the positive meter gain is faster, even though the time is shorter, but I do think it really affects these characters. So then last but not least would be the nerf to meterless reversals into Roman cancels. So the characters that are affected the absolute most by this would be characters that formerly had reversal into RC into 50-50. That would be Bridget and Chip and Leo Whitefang, for example. And their reversals were especially powerful, and especially Leo's, because Chip's and Bridget's both had small technical problems of, even though they're big vertically, they're not big horizontally, so there was a lot of counterplay to the reversal. But Leo's DP got made larger in a Season 3 patch. These three characters, I think, are affected the most. I actually am pretty surprised they did this because this has been a thing in many Arc System Works games over the years, and I was thinking that the best way of dealing with this would be to just put some type of restriction or make it so you can't like RC upward or increase the damage scaling, gravity scaling. So for example, Baiken's parry actually had a ton of scaling on it, and pretty much the only time you would be able to get some type of combo into wall break would be in this situation. And in the case of this nerf, I actually think she took a huge hit because she kind of took it as a stray. As other characters who had invincible reversal into RC also just had like better combos off it than she did. It's a tricky thing, I think, to balance because of the wall system. I think this thing would be easier to balance if you couldn't break the wall and get like big bonuses. In her case, many people are sharing a technique where you combine parry and super to do a Roman cancel. It is quite difficult, but despite that, that increases the difficulty of using it by quite a bit. I do think I might talk about the reversal thing specifically independently in another video. I have a lot of thoughts about it and what could happen to the game and things like that, but those are who I think are the biggest winners and losers of this patch. Let me know what you guys think. I wanted to make sure I covered stuff that I think was immediately obviously big. We will be playing on this patch for around 2 to 3 months. And my opinion did change on the game a lot between Arc Revo and Evo. So even though I'm like, we'll see, maybe the game will be this, the game can actually change quite a bit because of other system mechanics. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I do have a Metafy on metafy.gg/@LordKnight if you're interested in any Guilty Gear coaching or anything like that. I'm streaming basically every weekday on Twitch, twitch.tv/LordKnight, but not now, haha, because I'm still in Vegas. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.